This program was made possible in part by the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority. Also by a grant from the Alaska Center for Excellence in Journalism. And viewers like you. Gnostish Hawa, thank you. What gaps currently exist in terms of addiction that surprised you?
The gaps, man. Where do I start? You know, it's like, it feels like there's so many sometimes. I don't know if I can answer that. It would be easy for me to sit here and say, oh, we need more. We need more police officers. We need more probation officers. We need more counselors, or we need more social workers. And I don't think the problem is bigger than that.
No one could have predicted that this would have happened. It is one of those things that is never supposed to happen to you. In reality, this is an opportunity for change. This is a moment we can take to help prevent this from happening to other people.
If you need healing, if you need help, if you're hurting, if you're struggling, reach out to the people that love you. You know who they are. You know who your soul connects with. Reach out to those people.
Hi, can you connect me to extension 287? Thanks. As far as I'm aware of, in Juneau right now, there's one inpatient substance abuse treatment program. There's 4 intensive outpatient programs. Then there's also individual counselors. And then in addition to that, there's quite a few community groups.
Every facility is based on ASAM, which is the addiction placement model. And so through that system, each level of care, and it ranges from, you know, early intervention all the way up to high intensity medically managed detox. And each level of that system has a different placement number. And so each of our levels of care have our own unique focus. And so having an assessment take place so you know which level of care you're recommending is the entry point.
When we do assessments and when we talk about addiction as a package, not just substance use. We're talking about gambling addiction, eating addiction. There are many addictions.
Educating the community is key. I think we have to work really hard, and it's hard because a lot of people don't understand what mental health is, and everybody has mental health concerns. Everybody. You could be depressed, you can be sad, you can have PTSD, there could be a trauma in your history, and those are things that trigger people to become addicts because of something that happened years ago and they don't even recognize it. And so the stigma exists. Education is key, and it's really a challenge because a lot of people don't want to believe that somebody might have a mental health concern or an addiction. And a lot of our communities kind of push it aside and act like it's not something that happens here in Southeast, and it's actually very prevalent.
The whole purpose of education is so that people know how to ask for help, because that's part of the barrier for people seeking help, is just not even knowing how to describe what they're experiencing.
Growing up in Sitka, you know, it's a beautiful place. It's great for really young kids and people retiring. You know, there is nothing to do here for anybody between the ages of like 11 and 30. There's no teen center. There was when I was growing up. There was a teen center for a couple years. There was a bowling alley, but that all got taken away. So it's like there's nothing to do for all these kids, you know, and it's just, you know, I started drugs super early, not only because of the way life is here, but because of the traumas that I went through as a child, and the people that gave it to me were my abusers. But I mean, it's a small-knit town, but it's it's difficult to grow up here.
Would you say that there's a lot of support from the community when it comes to substance abuse disorder, or a lot of stigma?
Oh, there's a lot of stigma. If you have, that label of a drug user, it's really hard to get out of it. People treat you differently. Hello. Yep. Jamesia? I was actually the girl that got shot here back in 2018 due to drugs.
At her arraignment on Tuesday afternoon, 32-year-old Christina Quintana pled not guilty to a pair of felony counts of assault in the first degree for allegedly shooting Jamie Kane in both legs, in a conflict that Sitka police say is deeply enmeshed in local drug culture.
Back March 18th of 2018, I was dealing quite a bit of drugs here, and I was shot by two girls that came in and tried to rob my house, said that I owed them money. I was actually at the store. They kidnapped my children. I came home, and I was met with a Mossberg 500 in my face.
23-year-old Andrea Avalos was charged as an accomplice for arriving earlier in a vehicle driven by 25-year-old Sitkan Holly Chambers and removing Kane's young children on the pretense of taking them for ice cream. According to the criminal complaint, the downtown soda fountain was closed, so she abandoned them at the nearby Mean Queen restaurant and returned to the scene.
I was facing a lot of years in prison. I was also facing a lot of heartache and just emotional things. I actually tried to kill myself on my 31st birthday, one of the two. And that was it. I was like, I just can't do this anymore. What took me to take the first step to needing rehab and treatment was, it actually wasn't for myself. It was my fiance, who I met in the game. You know, we both went to jail on drug charges. We got caught together. I bailed him out, and he stayed clean. I did not. And then he came from Juneau to Sitka to get treatment. He actually came to this facility, and I followed. And if I wanted a life with him, you know, I wanted to be able to see my kids when I was here, I had to get help. Are you excited for chicken bobo tomorrow?
Oh yeah.
Yeah? Did you have chicken? You didn't have chicken adobo last time, huh?
I made it.
I know, but when we made it here.
Oh, probably not.
Yeah, when I did come back in 2020, you know, I looked a lot different. I remember going into a store and spending a bunch of money in there and buying clothes, and you know, the owner of the store asked me if I wanted a job there, and I said, yeah, I would love a job here. And you know, we're filling out the paperwork, and we get to my name. I tell her my name, and next day I get served with a no trespass order. Luckily, I have regained a lot of trust from the community back, because a lot of people accept me now. They see that I'm doing good and I'm working hard, and I'm back in my kid's life, and you know, I'm clean, but it's so hard. It's so hard coming back to this community once you've been labeled a drug user.
I'm of the belief that addiction is a disease. And so although initially it is a choice to use, the farther people go into their addiction, the less it becomes a choice and the more it becomes something that they have to do in order to stave off sickness, in order to function, in order to be able to feel quote unquote normal. That becomes their normal.
The brain is hijacked, and when we talk about behavioral health issues, it's pretty messy. There is no magic bullet, because when you sit with an individual who's healing, there are many facets of that person's life. There's a history, there's often intergenerational trauma, and then there's the present day complex trauma issues that they're dealing with. And sometimes these individuals are coping.
I'm super extra. I just try to be, make it a fun environment, and some people don't quite like that, so I've had to learn to kind of pull it back some, but yeah. So I was homeless, I was staying at the safe shelter, I was staying, the only people I really knew here that would still associate with me were drug addicts. And so it's kind of hard to stay at a drug addict's house and not use. So then I put myself in the safe shelter, and I continuously used out of there. And then finally, I was done with it. You know what I mean? I was tired of having to tell my kids and my mom and my fiance I kept relapsing. I was assessed at a 3.5. I applied to, I think, every 3.5 in Alaska. And I was calling every day. You're supposed to call once a week. I called every day for months. And it's, within a month, within 2 months, within, and it was so hard because it's like you get this burst of hope and then it's taken away, you know what I mean? I looked for treatment for a year before I was accepted into one and actually placed in a bed.
There's so many challenges to living in Southeast. First, we live on an island, right? You have no road access, and you have to be on a boat or an airplane to get out of here. And so to be able to access other services, you have to work through an agency to be able to get referred out or to find the right level of care. And that's really challenging for somebody who's struggling with alcohol or mental health.
When people are in recovery, it's a lifelong journey. So I think there's gaps everywhere. And I think that a major gap is being able to have bed-ready residential treatment for people who are ready. Because as we know it throughout the state of Alaska, it's limited. And sometimes people are on waiting lists for months, and when somebody's ready and they want help now, and there isn't a bed available, you can lose them.
The feeling is people don't care. People tell me to ask for help, I'm asking for help, and no one cares to help me.
You're going to end up in the ER or the police station, which are not necessarily the right places, but then those are areas where you can get the resource to get the help to get to the level of care you need.
People that I arrest either hate me or they love me. I kind of have I call it a taxi cab confession. And sometimes on the way to jail, I'll tell people how much I care about them and how much I don't want to take them to jail and how much I'd rather be taking them someplace different, someplace to get help. People need a sobering moment, and they need an opportunity to get sober and clean in a safe place. And I, of all people, know from working in the jail that sometimes the jail isn't actually that place.
I want to talk about the things that sometimes you've seen or been through. So that's what that is. So that's me, and I'm smoking a cigarette. That's not a joint. That's just a cigarette because I'm stressed out. And I used to wear those little golfer hats all the time, so that's what that is.
I made this copy right here. This is so cool. The Rules of Life.
So my name is Jeremy Sheldon, and I am a DSP, a direct service provider for a residential drug and alcohol treatment center.
All right, so the 7 rules of life is one is to smile. It always works out in the end. 2 is to be kind. You have the power to make people feel good. 3 is don't give up. If it doesn't work the first time, find another way. 4, don't compare. Everyone's on a different journey.
I have 8 felonies. Been in and out of prison, jails, treatment facilities. Well, I got released from jail. Actually, I got bailed out of jail. And then the probation officer said, well, since you don't have an address, then you have to stay down at the homeless shelter. You know, down homeless in Juneau, I couldn't stay anywhere else because everywhere that I knew there was a place that I could go use. And it kind of went like this. You would go from the warming shelter to the glory hall, and it was like fighting off demons the whole time, you know? Hey, Jeremy, can you get me anything? Or do you want to go get high? Or, you know what I mean? And it was like, no, 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 you know what I mean? And like I wouldn't leave the homeless shelter, except I went to go look for a job and stuff. But as far as that, I didn't go hang out with anybody. I didn't get in anybody's car because I was serious about my recovery.
Citizens, they don't understand. Someone who goes to jail, who's struggling with addiction, and already has probably some mental health issues associated with that addiction, they go to jail and they lose everything. It's just super hard. But to have someone help you, trying to walk you through the system and guide you to other services, to say, hey, I'm willing to help you work on your resume. People start believing in themselves, and sometimes you just gotta remind people that they have what it takes to make it.
And now it's come to a point where it's like, okay, so, you know, I was an addict for 20-something years, you know, on and off. And now I feel like this is a perfect job for me. It's because I get to help and give back. And it's very rewarding. You know what I mean? It really is. All right, Jordan, come on in. All right. How's it going today?
It is going great.
Did you get your chores done today?
Yes, sir, I did.
I didn't recognize Jeremy as a residential client when I first met him. He was actually working in the grocery store, and then he also had a part-time job at the hotel as a restaurant server. And so I actually met him as my server and as somebody in the community in the grocery store. And he had such an infectious personality. He was like, hey, how's it going? You know, we just kind of clicked. And then I come to the residential facility where we have a meeting where all of the clients come together and meet with the executive and clinical director once a month. And he was here and he was in my group. And I was like, hey, and he's like, hey.
It'll be next week, I'll present it.
That's what's up. Because then after that, then you can get a job.
Yes, sir.
It was just great to see him, and then once he transfers through our program, he graduated successfully. He continued to work really hard at both of his other jobs. Continued his sobriety, and then applied to work with us. And so he's been really, really engaging and super happy, and wants to give back and continue being sober, and then also work with clients that are going through the program and having the same challenges. So Jeremy's 1 in a million.
Some of the things like I print off and stuff like that, like I'll print and then I put their names on it, pass it out. You know what I mean? Awesome. It's hard having this job and still being in recovery and going through the stuff that I have in life, because you want to help everybody and you want it to be like perfect. You want to just touch them on their arm and be like, it's gonna be okay, and then they're cured. You know what I mean? But it's not. And it just goes back to the individual. And definitely in phasing into phase 2 at a perfect time when there are lots of jobs. You know? Yeah. So. Officer Shriver really helped me. He was my arresting officer, and he saw that I was doing good, and the more he saw me doing good, the more he wanted to help. And for me being on the side of not trusting police and not that kind of thing, to actually to see the flip side of it, you know, to where he was offering help. You know, do you have a resume? You know, trying to help me get it. Took me over to Jamie and, you know, met with, you know, one of the people over there to try to get me into treatment, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, because he saw that I was trying. And I might get emotional.
With Jeremy, it was really just, I feel like it was a perfect storm. I was in the right place at the right time, and I think I told him that I cared about him, that I believed in him, and that I wanted to help him.
yeah, it's just a cool environment. You know, it's I mean, I've heard on numerous occasions. I've even seen people from Juneau, you know what I mean, that have came here that I have interacted with, and they're like, "What? You work here?" And I was like, "Yep." And they're like, you know, and they find out an inspiration. They're like, "Well, shoot, if he can do it, you know what I mean, then I can." And I think that's like one of the like major selling points to have people in recovery at your facility, is because they see, you know what I mean, that hey, you know, this guy's, you know, he's got 8 felonies, he's been in prison 3 times, you know what I mean? You know, used to shoot meth for, you know, almost 20 years, you know what I mean? And now has, you know, almost 3 years clean, you know what I mean? And we're working at a place, you know? You don't have to work at a place, but at the same time, you can definitely change your life.
It's important not to lose sight of the small things. It's not, sometimes you get young officers who are like, I want to catch the big fish. You know, it's just like trying to go after the, you know, it's the cat and mouse game. You know, like it's kind of like when you're kids, you think about, you know, cops and robbers. It's not about that. But intervention training, how to get someone who wants help in see a social service person, to make sure that you kind of like follow up with them. That's not something that it's necessarily trained. It's just something that we do.
The upstairs common area, this is where we eat. I've been doing drugs and alcohol since I was a little kid. I mean, 20 plus years, I'm only 35. Once I finally was introduced to the treatment facility that I initially went to, you know, it opened doors for me that I didn't even know were there. This is the longest I've ever been sober in my life, and it's great. I'm getting to know me. So I love it here. I love it here. I can't wait to go to work.
Some days can be extremely challenging. And then there's some days that are extremely rewarding. When you get to see somebody that's come through our residential program, and the first day that you meet them, they're disheveled, their head is on the table, they have no energy, they have no engagement. And in 3 to 6 months, depending on their need and the medical necessity, they're vibrant, they're fresh, they trust you.
If you're a business owner, be open to hiring folks who are in recovery. Be open to looking at or past the criminal charges that many of our folks have, and be willing to give them a chance.
Focus on being present and creating a better future. 7 is to take care of your body and mind. 1 struggles to survive with the other.
Well, how I ended up at psychic counseling was somebody that I knew worked here who was also in recovery. And so I just had to do like a leap of faith, you know what I mean? I had all this stigma in the back of my head about what people are gonna think of me because of who I am in this town, and they would never hire me because of, you know, what my name is, but I just had to fill an application, you know what I mean? So I try and help. I'm the shopping staff, so we go and we just have shenanigans at the store. One time a client silly stringed me in the store.
You know, after graduating treatment, and hear that they got their children back, or that they're on the track to their preferred career path, or you see them out in the community and they come up to you and say, "Hi, you know, how's it going? I'm doing great. Thanks for everything you've done for me," or thank the team for everything they've done for me. Those are the successes that keep me in this field and keep me passionate about what I do. The harder part about working with people that struggle with addictions are the ones that don't make it or continuously struggle the rest of their lives. And it is an uphill battle for a lot of people, and sometimes one that they'll never win. And that's hard. That's hard to know people that have died because they've succumbed to their addiction, or to know people that are suffering in silence because they don't fit into a category that allows them to get the help that they need when they need it. And it's hard to watch people fall through the cracks, because sometimes that happens.
What can, our local communities do to help support this and try and destigmatize some of this? Really being mindful of the language that we use. Using person-first language and identifying someone as a person before a problem or before their addiction, instead of saying, well, he's just an alcoholic. Let's remove that. Let's really talk about this is a person who has an addiction. This is a person who has a struggle with alcohol. Let's be mindful of the power of the words that we use.
This is such an opportunity for all of our hearts to connect and to reach out to those that we haven't been reaching out to, and to come together.
We believe that programs don't heal people. It's people that heal people. Many times when you sit with somebody who's healing, we don't become who we are today without a whole past. And we don't become who we are today overnight, which means once we open that door to healing, it's going to be a journey. It's going to take time.
As long as they know that we're here for them, as long as they know that we will be there when they're ready. You can't force somebody to get clean, because they might do a 60-day, 45-day rehab, but if you force them, if they don't want to change, they're going to get out and do it anyways. But there will be a time in their life when they're ready to stop, and that they need to know that there is somebody here to help them.
Memories of a time I felt alive, wrapped in your arms. Sometimes now we talk, and I forgot how warm this
This program was made possible in part by the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority. Also by a grant from the Alaska Center for Excellence in Journalism. And viewers like you. Gnostish Hawa. Thank you.